And you know, we've been talking with Honolulu Mayor Kirk Caldwell, and Catherine touched on those themes of unity. And
Yes.
a lot of these races, of course, as Neil pointed out, they are primary races,
Yep.
and they can get pretty tough. I know many of these relationships have been existed for a long time. How do you think this does for the party as a Democrat? You know, hurt feelings, and can that unity breakfast go on as planned?
I think unity breakfast will go on, and I think it is about healing. That's why we have these breakfasts as Democrats. But here's something, you know, the party lost its heart and soul with the death of Senator Inouye. And we've been a bunch of free-floating planets right now, and I watched it at the state convention, and you see it in this election. You know, people voting for Inouye or Abercrombie, you'd be surprised they'd be breaking apart. We need to come together now as Democrats, and there's going to need to be a lot of healing. It really does depend on the governor and David Inouye to help do that healing, and then those critical guys around them need to come together too. And then all of us as Democrats, if we want to see a Democrat remain the governor of the state of Hawaii, it's going to be a competitive race. I think both Duke Aiona and Mufi Hannemann will give a run for their money for whoever the Democratic nominee is. And if the Democrats decide to sit it out because they're hoo-hoo about their candidate did not win, it could spell disaster for Democrats. So tomorrow's breakfast is critically important, and the statements made by the victor and the person who lost, extremely important, and then we need to start to work together.
It's really interesting to see how something as simple as that unity breakfast represents so much as we head into the general.
Right. We've been doing it for decades. Part of the thing is the Democratic Party is such a huge tent, and they put out great candidates, and there's bruising battles that happen, but they recognize that if they don't start coming back together afterwards, there's real trouble. And I think we're going to see it coming together tomorrow. That's my hope. I'm going to work hard as mayor to make sure that we all come together, and I'm going to support whoever the candidate is to running for governor and, of course, for Congress, both the House and the Senate, along with Lieutenant Governor.
And looking through these numbers, are there any that really jump out at you? Something
Just some other things.
surprising,
I'm surprised, you know, on Maui, Judson Woodson was appointed by Neil Abercrombie, and he beat Kimo Apana, at least in the first 52-42. Kimo is a former mayor, so I was a little bit surprised by that because he doesn't have a lot of name recognition. Jimmy Tokioka beat Dylan Hoosier. Hoosier is the son of Gary Hoosier, and you know the GMO debate, and I think there was a division on where they stood, and reflected here 66-27. I don't know if that's a reflection of how people feel about GMO. And then in my Manoa Valley, Isaac Choi and Nat Kinney, 49-43. I think it's closer than what I would have expected, so it shows Nat ran a good race. Marilyn Lee pulled it out of the hat in terms of winning the Democratic primary, which she used to serve in the House with me. And then Matthew Lopresti, who ran first time, or maybe the second time, he won with 61% of the vote to Rita Cabanilla's 34%. So she's the sitting incumbent, and he beat her. And then finally, for council, Ernie Martin got, I think here I'm seeing 62% of the vote, so I think he doesn't have to have a runoff. You know, he got 50 plus 1. He's going to be happy about that. Tommy Waters got 34% of the vote to Trevor Ozawa's 25%. That's the seat replacing Stanley Chang, who came in third so far in the race for CD1. And then Brandon Elefante has 45% of the vote to the runner-up at 11%. Looks like Brandon's going to win. He was a staffer for Breen Harimoto, who's been elected already as a senator. So these are some of the races that I think are interesting. That we should
It'll be interesting to
following.
watch as we wait for that second printout.
Yeah, sorry.
There's another interesting city council race with Carol Fukunaga where
yes.
unions put in a lot of money for a candidate against her because of her opposition to a bill involving limiting the conversion of hotel rooms to condos. And Carol Fukunaga, who is an old-timer and has won all kinds of elections, is really beating the other candidate handily. The one other thing in City Council, and the mayor mentioned it to watch, I think that the single most important issue as far as voters in some places are concerned, and it's more important, it's more intense than anything else, although not on Oahu, is GMO. And there's a whole bunch of races on the neighbor islands, especially Kauai and Maui, where you have candidates who are explicitly running on anti-GMO platforms against people who supported it. And there's big money on both sides because the GMO and anti-GMO forces have national money. So that's an interesting thing to watch. The state, remember, pretty much punted on a GMO policy and left it up to the counties. And when you leave it up to the counties, you get some real grassroots intense politics, and that's what you're going to see.
Wonderful. Well, we appreciate so much, Mr. Mayor, that you're being here, and it's so
Appreciate
nice to
it.
have you here
Thank you.
on the other side of
Yes.
of the equation, not having to duke it out this time around. Thank you for
I just
your
want to thank you
insight.
folks for all you did yesterday. You know, during these emergencies, we can do our job, but if you don't get the word out, the job isn't being done. You're such a critical partner, and you guys stepped up. You were down at our EOC repeatedly and all over this entire state. And I mean, I think it really helps the public. I want to thank you all for working really hard. I know you guys are tired. And I know you got to work long tonight, too. So anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor.
You take care.